258 boroughs in Pennsylvania, 1,455 townships of the second class, another 100 and some odd number of townships that are first class. And then we can throw in school districts and counties and special authorities. And by the time we get done, we've got 100,000 people that are elected officials and or staff in our communities. And oftentimes we don't communicate. I do not have a degree in science. But I've had to work with engineers and water specialists and air specialists and soil specialists. And when we talk with them, they talk in a different language. When you go to your boards, be it a township or a borough or even the county government, how are you speaking to them? Are we using the same language? It's very easy for us to get real excited about something and be all hot and bothered about it. We come into the council meeting or the board meeting and we demand to explain to them about the total dissolved solids and the lack of oxygen in the water and this and that and the air particulates. And you know something? As was mentioned earlier, those guys are worried about the other person that just came into that room and he is mad because you knocked down his mailbox that morning plowing snow. What do you think their attention span is going to be? It's going to be very short. That's assuming now that you have an advisory board that's working on environmental issues in the community. I will tell you that in eastern Pennsylvania, here in Delaware, Montgomery, Berks, and Bucks County, Chester County, you're ahead of the curve. You are ahead of the curve. I'm pleased to see somebody here from Derry Township, Cumberland, Dauphin County. There's no one from Cumberland, Perry, Lebanon County, Lancaster County that I'm aware of here. You have taken the lead in the environmental issues in Pennsylvania at the local government level. And it's not easy.
The regionalization is important. If, she very much likes to see organizations and groups coming to educate her, to talk to her about projects, and to ask for money, which happens about 5 times a day. If they're working with other communities, legislators want things, they're smart and they want to see cooperation and coordination and communities getting the biggest bang for their buck, especially in a time when dollars are really limited. And they look very favorably on that. You come together, you figured out a way of doing things together, it saves money, and it makes a lot of sense. So regionalization is something that she looks at when groups come to us to talk about projects. So I know that's something that, she encourages with EACs. One thing that would make sense for groups like yours is to get together with other EACs in somebody's district and go talk to your member of Congress together or your state legislator together. It is much more, again, in terms of what Michael said, we're overwhelmed. I cannot describe to you how swamped elected officials' offices are. So if you say to us, well, I want to come and meet with the Congresswoman, with the members of the Jenkintown EAC and tell you what you're doing, that's great. It's much better to say, you know what, we're coming along with Abington and Lower Moreland. We want to meet with you as a group. Because for us, the biggest issue is there's no other way to put it, it's the time, it's the hours that an elected official has. And you're really doing us a favor and having a bigger impact if you pull together some other groups and come in to meet with us. So in terms of regionalization, that's, working together as projects, saving money, and then coming as a group to meet. In addition, I just want to mention, we've been contacted by some constituents who said, I'm really concerned about streetlights or recycling. Recycling's a big one, or stormwater. And I don't think my community's doing anything about it. How can I get involved? And we say to them, you know what? Does your community have an EAC? You should contact your commissioners, tell them you want to get involved. So the information that Susan gave you, about those, I've said to them, listen, this is state legislation, and I don't know anything about it, but the PAC is there to help you set up an EAC in your community. Or I know Jenkintown has a really good EAC. Call Jenkintown. Call somebody in Jenkintown and say to them, we want to set this up, and we don't know where to start. So you guys are lucky because there's a lot of resources for you.
There are so many distractions in our lives. We have our regular jobs where we have to take care of our boss and manage our boss. I think we also have our challenges on what are we going to do on gee whiz, I just got yelled at by a neighbor over the mailbox that got knocked down under 16 feet of snow, why wasn't that, and why was the backhoe coming into their neighborhood first? I get that, that's fine, that's all part of it. The key things here for you is how do you work with the supervisor, but I also want to talk for a few minutes about how to work with your township manager. I speak from township, I mean, I'm sure at boroughs and others, organizations, there's a similar person. Let's take the supervisors first. They're volunteers, not unlike you. For some reason, they ran for political office, and somehow they got elected. It's a really interesting process that you go through, and it's a real education for them. I see the EAC as a valuable resource to educate me on those issues, because you have depth of knowledge that I will never, in a bazillion years, ever get. My goal here is to really help understand that, but what we need to do is take that 20-page document and distill it down into 2 or 3 sentences. Because that's the thing, that's the amount of time I have. They call it the elevator pitch. If I see my state senator Denman and I say, State Senator, here are the 3 things I got to do, and it's A, B, C, and he goes, okay, and what do you need? And then we get that. That is a very important thing, because I find that a lot of times they come in, here is the grand plan. I can't process that way. I can't, and I know that my fellow supervisors can't process that way. But what we can do is that they say, how do you eat an elephant? I mean, it's sort of a bad metaphor, but how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. You come in and say, oh, we have to solve the stormwater problem on Maud Road. It's not going to happen. But if you say, here's how we're going to do it, this is what we're going to need, this is the benefit, all of a sudden life becomes much easier, and you'll find that they're far more receptive. And also at the same time, you have also created that level of trust, communication, and some nice side successes, because each time you take that bite and you move forward, you can really get there.